My daughter told her wealthy friends that I don't fit their Christmas vibe. My name is Paul Thompson. 8 years ago, I gave Abigail my kidney to save her life. 6 years ago, I bought her a $2.5 million house so she could live the lifestyle she wanted. But somewhere along the way, Abigail forgot those details. She started treating me like an embarrassment instead of the father who sacrificed everything for her success. When she crossed the line at her perfect Christmas party in front of all the people she was trying to impress, I made a phone call that changed both our lives forever. What happened next taught Abigail a lesson about gratitude she'll never forget. If this story hits home for you, I'd love to hear where you're watching from. Drop me a comment and subscribe so you don't miss what happened next. This story begins 8 years ago in a hospital room where I had to choose between my kidney and my daughter's life, December 2016. Abigail collapsed during her senior year at UCLA. 24 hours later, Dr. Helena Mitchell at University Medical Center delivered news that shattered our world. Acute kidney failure, genetic condition, dialysis immediately. I remember sitting in that sterile waiting room, watching my only child hooked up to machines. Abigail had always been everything to me after her mother died when she was 12. Smart, ambitious, beautiful. Now she was dying. The nephrologist explained it simply. Without a transplant, Abigail has maybe 18 months. The waiting list is 3 to 5 years. I didn't hesitate. Test me. March 2017. The surgery took 11 hours. They took my left kidney and gave it to Abigail. Perfect match. The doctor said it was textbook. My healthy kidney immediately began functioning at 87% capacity in her body. But here's what nobody tells you about organ donation. It changes you forever. My remaining kidney now works overtime. My energy levels dropped. I went from running construction crews to managing light maintenance work. Some days I'm exhausted by noon. Abigail recovered beautifully. Within 6 months, she was back at UCLA, finishing her degree. Within a year, she landed that marketing job at Sterling Luxury Brands. $85,000 a year, company car, expense account. Meanwhile, I was learning to live with chronic fatigue, regular medical checkups, and a medication schedule that filled a 7-day pill organizer twice weekly. But I was proud. My sacrifice gave Abigail her life back. That's when the subtle changes began. Abigail started talking about her lifestyle, designer clothes, expensive restaurants, a social circle that revolved around her boyfriend Trevor's family old money, multiple homes, the kind of people who say summer as a verb. She'd visit less frequently. When she did come by my small apartment, she'd glance around with what I can only describe as embarrassment. My steel-toe work boots by the door, my pickup truck in the parking lot, the afternoon naps I needed because my body couldn't keep up anymore. "Dad, you should really update your wardrobe," she'd say. "Maybe get a newer car." "You're not that old." I'd smile and change the subject, but inside something was shifting. The real wake-up call came in March 2018. Abigail called, crying. Trevor's parents were visiting, and she was living in a tiny apartment with roommates. She was mortified. "Dad, I can't bring them there. They'll think I'm some kind of failure." So I did what any father would do. I used my savings, took out a mortgage, and bought her a house. Not just any house, a stunning 4-bedroom contemporary in West LA, $2.5 million. Granite countertops, hardwood floors, a kitchen that belonged in a magazine. "Consider it an early inheritance," I told her. "You've been through enough." Abigail cried. She hugged me. She promised she'd never forget what I'd done. But I kept the house in my name. Call it instinct. Call it protection. I told myself it was just paperwork. I'd transfer it to her eventually. Abigail moved in immediately. Trevor's parents loved it. Abigail's social status soared. Suddenly, she was the girl with the gorgeous house, the one who could host dinner parties and wine tastings. And slowly, I became an inconvenience. The invitations to family gatherings became suggestions that I might be too tired to attend. The weekly dinners became monthly check-ins. Abigail stopped mentioning me to her new friends. When I'd visit the house I was still paying for, Abigail would seem anxious, like she was worried I might embarrass her somehow. But I told myself it was temporary. She was young, she'd grow out of it. I was wrong. By December 2024, the situation had crystallized into something I could no longer ignore. Abigail was living a life that was entirely funded by me, while simultaneously treating me like I was the help. Let me break down the numbers for you, because numbers don't lie. The house payment, $3,847 monthly. Property taxes, $2,100 quarterly. Homeowners insurance, $4,000 annually. Utilities averaged $320 monthly because Abigail liked the house kept at exactly 72 degrees year-round. My contribution to Abigail's lifestyle, roughly $68,000 per year. Abigail's contribution, zero. But it wasn't just the money. It was the pattern that had developed. Abigail had created this elaborate fiction where she was this successful, independent woman who'd earned her beautiful life through hard work and good choices. She'd post Instagram photos of herself cooking in her kitchen. She'd host parties and accept compliments on her interior decorating. She'd casually mention her mortgage and her investment in real estate. Meanwhile, I was still living in a one-bedroom apartment across town, taking afternoon naps because my remaining kidney couldn't quite keep up with the demands I placed on it. The medical bills from the transplant had cost $312,000. Insurance covered most of it, but I'd paid nearly $40,000 out of pocket. Money I'd saved for decades, gone in a few months. Did Abigail remember this? Did she factor it into her calculations when she was deciding whether I fit with her new life? I began to suspect the answer was no. The first real test came in November. Abigail called about Thanksgiving. "Dad, Trevor's family is hosting this amazing dinner. Very formal, very elegant. I think it might be better if you didn't come this year. You know how you get tired, and it's going to be a long evening. How I get tired. Like it was a personality flaw instead of the direct result of giving her my kidney. I stayed home that Thanksgiving, ate a frozen dinner, and watched football. Told myself it was fine. But then came the phone call that changed everything. December 10th, Tuesday evening. Abigail called while I was reviewing some paperwork Tom Bradley had sent over. Tom's my real estate agent, also my old army buddy. He'd been helping me understand some investment opportunities. "Dad, I need to talk to you about something important." I could hear music in the background. Voices. She was already at some event. "Trevor's family is planning this incredible Christmas celebration at the house. Very exclusive, very high-end. His father's business associates, some local politicians, real networking opportunities for my career." I waited. "The thing is, Dad, these are very sophisticated people. Image matters in their world, and I was thinking maybe it would be better if you didn't come to this one either." "Abigail, it's Christmas." I know. But you have to understand these people. They're going to judge everything, the way people dress, the way they talk, their backgrounds. And you're very blue-collar, Dad. It's not your fault. But it might send the wrong message about me professionally." I felt something cold settle in my chest. "What message is that, Abigail?" "Just that maybe I come from a certain kind of family. These people, they care about things like that." I was quiet for a long moment. In the background, I could hear someone laughing, the sound of glasses clinking. "So you're ashamed of me?" "It's not about shame, Dad. It's about strategy. Trevor's father might offer me a position at his company. This could change my whole career trajectory. I just need everything to be perfect. Perfect. Without the man who'd given her everything. What about Christmas Day itself? Family time? Well, we'll probably still be recovering from the party. Maybe we could do something low-key later in the week." That's when I realized I was at a crossroads. I could continue enabling this behavior, continue being the invisible benefactor who funded Abigail's life while being excluded from it. Or I could draw a line. The stakes weren't just about respect, though that mattered. They weren't just about gratitude, though that mattered too. The stakes were about who I was going to be for the rest of my life. Was I going to be the man who gave everything and asked for nothing? The father who sacrificed his health and wealth so his daughter could pretend she'd earned her success independently? Or was I going to be the man who taught his daughter that actions have consequences, that respect isn't optional, and that you don't get to erase the people who made your life possible? I looked at the paperwork spread across my kitchen table. House deed, mortgage statements, bank records. Everything Abigail thought was hers was actually still mine. And maybe it was time she learned that. I decided to have one honest conversation before taking out any drastic action. Abigail deserved that much, or maybe I needed it for my own peace of mind. December 12th, Thursday evening, I drove to the house. My house, though Abigail had long stopped thinking of it that way. I used my key, something Abigail always seemed to forget I still had. She was in the kitchen, arranging white orchids in a crystal vase. The whole place had been transformed. Caterers had clearly been through. The furniture was polished to a mirror shine. Fresh flowers everywhere. It looked like something from a magazine spread. "Dad? What are you doing here?" "We need to talk, Abigail." She glanced toward the stairs. "Trevor's upstairs getting ready. We have dinner reservations in an hour. This won't take long." I sat down at the kitchen island. The granite countertops were spotless. Everything was perfect, just like Abigail wanted it. I've been thinking about our conversation the other night. Abigail continued arranging flowers, not quite meeting my eyes. "About Christmas." "Dad, I thought we settled that." "We did." "That's the problem." She finally looked at me. "What do you mean?" "Abigail, do you remember when you were dying?" Her hands stilled on the orchid stems. "Dad, that was a long time ago. 8 years. Do you remember what the doctor said?" "Of course I remember. But why are we talking about this now?" "Because I'm trying to understand how we got from there to here." "From where to where?" I gestured around the kitchen. "From me giving you my kidney to you being embarrassed that I exist." Abigail's face flushed. "That's not... I never said I was embarrassed. You said I don't fit your vibe. That's different. That's about social compatibility, not what? Not about you being ashamed of your father?" She set down the flowers and crossed her arms. "Dad, you're being dramatic. This is about professional networking. Image matters in business." "Whose image, Abigail? Yours or mine?" "Both?" "Trevor's family operates at a certain level. They have expectations." "What expectations?" "That the people they associate with pretend they don't have families." Abigail sighed, the sound sharp with impatience. "You don't understand how their world works." "Their world? Not our world. Dad, I'm trying to build something here. A career, a future. Sometimes that requires making strategic decisions about social situations." I felt that cold feeling in my chest expanding. Strategic decisions. Like excluding your father from Christmas. "It's one party, Dad." "No, Abigail. It started with Thanksgiving. Before that, it was your birthday dinner where I might be too tired. Before that, it was the housewarming party where you thought I might not connect with your friends." Her jaw tightened. Those were legitimate concerns. Legitimate concerns about what? About me embarrassing you? About you not understanding the social dynamics? Because I'm blue collar? Because you're not used to these environments? You mean because I work with my hands? Because I drive a pickup truck? Because I take naps in the afternoon? Abigail's voice rose slightly. "I mean because you don't know how to navigate high-stakes social situations." "High-stakes social situations. In the house I bought you. With the kidney I gave you." She went very still. "Don't." "Don't what?" "Don't mention the inconvenient facts." "Don't use the kidney thing as emotional manipulation." The kidney thing. 8 years later, and my sacrifice had become the kidney thing. "Abigail, do you know what my kidney function is now?" "Dad, please." 23%. Down from 50% before the surgery. Do you know what that means? "I know you have some fatigue issues." "Some fatigue issues. I gave you an organ, Abigail, a part of my body. It's not growing back." She looked uncomfortable now, shifting her weight from foot to foot. "I never asked you to do that." The words hung in the air like smoke. "You never asked me to do that." "I didn't. The doctors presented options, and I chose to save your life. And I'm grateful. I've always been grateful." "Have you?" "Of course I have." "When? When have you shown that gratitude, Abigail?" "I don't know what you want me to say, Dad. Thank you? Fine. Thank you. But that doesn't mean I owe you my entire social life. Your social life in the house I'm paying for." Abigail's eyes flashed. "I never asked you to buy this house either." "No, you just cried about how embarrassed you were of your apartment." "That's different." "How is it different?" "Because I didn't demand anything. You offered. I offered because I thought you needed help. I thought we were family. We are family. Family that doesn't invite each other to Christmas? Abigail threw her hands up. One Christmas party, Dad. One event that happens to be important for my career. Your career built on my foundation. What's that supposed to mean? It means everything you have came from me, Abigail. Everything. And now you're trying to edit me out of the story. She was quiet for a moment, and I thought maybe I'd gotten through to her. Then she said, Dad, I appreciate everything you've done. But I can't live my life trying to pay back every sacrifice you made. That's not fair to either of us. I'm not asking you to pay me back, Abigail. I'm asking you to remember that I exist. You're asking me to compromise my future for your feelings. And there it was. The thing that had been building between us for years, finally out in the open. My feelings versus her future, as if they were mutually exclusive, as if acknowledging me would somehow destroy everything she'd built. I stood up slowly. Abigail, I want you to think about something. Really think about it. What? You won the genetic lottery, getting a father who would give you his kidney. But lottery winners who forget how they got lucky tend to lose everything they won. I headed for the door. Dad, where are you going? Home. To my apartment. The one I can afford on a maintenance worker's salary. I paused at the door. Enjoy your dinner reservations. The drive home gave me time to think. And what I was thinking scared me, because it felt like clarity. For years, I'd been operating under the assumption that Abigail would eventually mature, that she'd recognize what we'd built together and want to protect it. I'd been patient, understanding, willing to make excuses for her behavior, but Abigail wasn't going through a phase. She was becoming someone I didn't recognize, someone who saw love and sacrifice as transactional inconveniences. Back at my apartment, I made myself a cup of coffee and spread Tom Bradley's paperwork across my small dining table. Tom had been helping me understand some investment opportunities, but tonight I was looking at everything with new eyes. The house deed, stamped and official. Paul Thompson, sole owner. The mortgage paperwork, clear and binding. Paul Thompson, sole borrower. The insurance policies. The property tax statements. The utility accounts. Paul Thompson. Paul Thompson. Paul Thompson. Abigail had been living in my house for 6 years, and somehow she'd convinced herself and everyone around her that it belonged to her. My phone rang. Tom Bradley. Paul, you reviewing those documents I sent over? Yeah, Tom. I have some questions. Shoot. The house. If I wanted to make changes to the arrangement, what would that look like? Tom was quiet for a moment. We'd served together in Afghanistan. He knew how to read between lines. What kind of changes, Paul? Hypothetically, if the current living situation wasn't working out. Hypothetically, you're the sole owner. You can make any changes you want, anytime you want. What about Abigail? She's been living there for years. Paul, she's not a tenant. She doesn't pay rent. Legally, she's a guest. A guest you can ask to leave whenever you choose. I absorbed that. How quickly could something like that happen? If you really wanted to move fast, we could have a listing up tomorrow. Cash buyers in this market would close in 2 weeks. Cash buyers? Paul, that house is worth at least 2.7 now, maybe 2.8. Prime location, excellent condition. We'd have multiple offers within 48 hours. 2.8 million. I'd bought it for 2.5 just 6 years ago. Tom, let me ask you something else. Do you still have those contacts at the real estate investment groups? Of course. Why? They pay cash, right? Quick closes? Paul, what's going on? This doesn't sound hypothetical anymore. I looked around my small apartment. 1 bedroom, 1 bathroom, a kitchen barely big enough for 2 people. This was where I lived while my daughter hosted networking parties in a house I couldn't afford to visit. Tom, I need to ask you for a favor, and I need you to keep it confidential. Name it. I need you to do some research. Quietly. Find out what that house would actually sell for in today's market. Get some preliminary interest from cash buyers. Don't list it, just see what's out there. Paul, are you sure about this? Abigail's your daughter. Abigail's a grown woman who's made her choices very clear. But selling her house out from under her, Tom, it's not her house. It never was her house. I know everyone thinks it is, but the paperwork doesn't lie. Tom was quiet for a long moment. Okay, I'll make some calls. But Paul? Yeah? Once you go down this road, there's no coming back from it. You understand that, right? I understood, but I was beginning to think that might not be a bad thing. After I hung up with Tom, I sat in my quiet apartment and thought about consequences. Not just for Abigail, but for me too. If I sold that house, I'd have nearly $3 million. Enough to buy something smaller but nicer, enough to secure my retirement, enough to get the best possible medical care as my kidney function continued to decline. But I'd also be teaching my daughter the hardest lesson of her life. I'd be forcing her to confront the reality that everything she thought she'd earned had actually been given to her. The question was whether that lesson would help her or destroy her. My phone buzzed, a text from Abigail. Dad, I've been thinking about our conversation tonight. Maybe we can find a compromise about Christmas. Call me tomorrow? A compromise. Even now, she was thinking in terms of negotiation rather than recognition. I set the phone aside without responding. Tomorrow, I'd call Tom back and tell him to move forward with the research. I'd start the process of reclaiming not just my house, but my dignity. Abigail would learn that compromise requires two people who respect each other. And respect, as she was about to discover, wasn't negotiable. But first, she was going to get one final chance to show me who she really was. December 15th was 3 days away, the night of her Christmas party. I'd be there, whether I fit the vibe or not. December 15th arrived with the kind of crisp winter evening that makes Los Angeles feel almost seasonal. I'd spent the day thinking about what I was going to do, and by 6 p.m., my mind was made up. I drove to the house, my house, and parked across the street. The transformation was stunning. Valet parking, professional lighting casting dramatic shadows across the front entrance. Guests in designer clothes stepping out of luxury cars. Abigail had spared no expense. My money, but no expense spared. I waited until the party was in full swing before walking to the front door. I was wearing my best clothes, a navy blazer I'd bought for Abigail's college graduation, khaki pants, and dress shoes. Not exactly black tie, but respectful. The front door was open, with a security guard checking names against a guest list. Name, sir? Paul Thompson. He scanned the list, frowned, checked again. I don't see a Thompson here, sir. I'm Abigail's father. And the homeowner. Before he could respond, I stepped past him into my own house. The place was unrecognizable. Crystal chandeliers I'd never seen before. Servers in white jackets carrying silver trays. A jazz quartet in the corner where Abigail's dining table used to be. At least 60 people, all of them looking like they'd stepped out of a luxury magazine. I spotted Abigail immediately. She was near the fireplace wearing a red dress that probably cost more than my monthly rent, laughing with a group that included Trevor's parents. Our eyes met across the room. The laughter died on her lips. I walked toward her, nodding politely to the guests I passed. Several of them looked at me with the kind of curious confusion you see when someone doesn't quite fit the expected pattern. Abigail. I smiled warmly. Beautiful party? Dad? Her voice was tight. What are you doing here? It's Christmas. Family time, remember? Trevor appeared at her elbow, tall and polished in a perfectly tailored tuxedo. Mr. Thompson, what a surprise! Trevor. Nice to see you. Abigail's face was flushed, and I could see her calculating rapidly. How to minimize this disruption, how to manage the situation. Dad, maybe we could step into the kitchen for a moment. Actually, I'd love to meet some of your friends first. I gestured toward the group she'd been talking with. You've told me so much about them. Abigail's panic was barely concealed now. Dad, really, I think... Abigail, darling, aren't you going to introduce us? The voice belonged to an elegant woman in her 60s, Trevor's mother. Margaret Ashford, if I remembered correctly. Old money, charity boards, the kind of woman who called everyone darling, whether she meant it or not. Of course. Abigail's smile looked painted on. Margaret, this is my father, Paul Thompson. Paul! How wonderful to finally meet you. Margaret extended a perfectly manicured hand. Abigail talks about you constantly. I shook her hand, noting Abigail's surprised expression. Does she? That's nice to hear. Oh, yes, she's always mentioning how proud she is of this beautiful home, how she's worked so hard to create this lifestyle. I glanced around the room. It is a beautiful house, isn't it? Exquisite. Abigail has such sophisticated taste. You must be so proud of how successful she's become, building all of this on her own. Abigail was staring at me with something approaching terror. Actually, I said conversationally, I am proud. Though I wouldn't say she built it entirely on her own. Margaret tilted her head, curious. Oh? Well, there was the kidney transplant situation a few years back. That was a team effort. The group went quiet. Abigail's face had gone pale. Kidney transplant? Margaret looked between Abigail and me. Oh, Abigail never mentioned that? 8 years ago, she was dying of kidney failure. I donated one of mine. Perfect match, thank goodness. You could hear a pin drop in our little circle. Abigail, Margaret said softly, you never told us you'd had health issues. It was a long time ago. Abigail's voice was barely above a whisper. Not that long, I continued pleasantly. The recovery was quite something. Abigail bounced back beautifully, but the donor recovery is a bit more complicated. My remaining kidney works overtime now. That's why I seem tired sometimes. Abigail mentioned I get fatigued easily. Trevor was looking at Abigail with confusion. You told us your dad had some kind of chronic condition. Well, technically, that's true, I smiled. Reduced kidney function is chronic, though I wouldn't call it a condition so much as a consequence of choice. Margaret was staring at me with something approaching awe. Mr. Thompson, you gave your daughter your kidney. Wouldn't you? For your child? Of course, but Abigail, why didn't you ever mention this incredible sacrifice your father made? Abigail looked trapped. We don't really talk about it much. Don't talk about it? Margaret looked genuinely shocked. But this man saved your life. I know that, Abigail said quietly. And this beautiful house, Margaret continued, you must have worked so hard to afford something like this. The real estate market in this area. I could see Abigail calculating again, trying to figure out how much to reveal, how much to deflect. Actually, I said before she could answer, I helped with the house, too. Helped how? Trevor asked. I bought it. The silence stretched longer this time. You bought it? Margaret's voice was careful. $2.5 million, March 2018. Abigail needed a nicer place to live, somewhere appropriate for entertaining people like yourselves, so I took out a mortgage. Trevor was staring at Abigail now. You told us you had a mortgage. She does, I said helpfully. It's just not in her name. Abigail found her voice. Dad, please. Oh, I'm sorry. Are these details too personal? I looked around the group with genuine curiosity. I just assumed, since this is a family celebration, that your friends would know about your family. Margaret was looking at Abigail with something between confusion and disappointment. Abigail, dear, your father bought you this house? It's complicated, Abigail said weakly. It's really not, I said. I wanted my daughter to have a beautiful home. So I bought her one. Any father would do the same. But you don't live here, Trevor's father had joined the conversation. Oh, no, I live across town. 1-bedroom apartment. Much more suitable for a maintenance worker's budget. Maintenance worker? Margaret looked surprised. Abigail told us you were in construction management. I was. Before the surgery. Hard to manage construction crews when you need afternoon naps. Abigail was staring at the floor now. But that's wonderful, Margaret said, though she looked confused. I mean, not wonderful that you had to leave your career, but wonderful that you made such incredible sacrifices for Abigail. The kidney, the house, your career. Abigail, you're so fortunate to have such a devoted father. Abigail looked up then, and I saw something in her eyes I'd never seen before, something cold and calculating. Yes, she said quietly. Lucky me. And that's when she said the words that changed everything between us forever. Sometimes I think I won the genetic lottery, getting someone so willing to sacrifice everything, even when nobody asked him to. Margaret looked shocked. Trevor looked uncomfortable. The entire group was suddenly very interested in their champagne glasses. But Abigail wasn't finished. I mean, it's wonderful having a father who's so invested in making sure everyone knows about his sacrifices. The words hit me like a physical blow. Abigail, Margaret said quietly, that's a terrible thing to say. Is it? I didn't ask for a kidney. I didn't ask for this house. But somehow I'm supposed to spend the rest of my life being grateful for decisions other people made for me. The group was backing away now, sensing the toxic turn in the conversation. Abigail stepped closer to me, her voice dropping to a whisper only I could hear. You want to know the truth, Dad? I wish I'd gotten that kidney from someone who matters. Someone who wouldn't spend the rest of my life making me pay for it with gratitude. I stared at my daughter for a long moment. Then I smiled. Abigail, that's exactly what I needed to hear. I pulled out my phone and made a call right there in front of everyone. Tom? It's Paul. Yeah, I'm at the house now. Remember what we discussed? Move forward with everything. Tonight. Abigail's face went white. Dad, what are you doing? I ended the call and looked at her calmly. Something I should have done a long time ago. What are you talking about? Before I could answer, Trevor's father stepped forward. I'm sorry, but who's Tom? Tom Bradley. My real estate agent. Margaret looked confused. Real estate agent? But Abigail, I thought you said you weren't planning to move. Abigail was staring at me with growing horror. Dad, please tell me you didn't... Didn't what, Abigail? You can't sell the house. This is my home. Actually, I said quietly, it's not. Trevor frowned. What do you mean it's not her home? I looked around the group of elegant, sophisticated people who Abigail was so desperate to impress. I mean, the house is in my name. The mortgage is in my name. The insurance, the property taxes, all of it. Abigail lives here, but she doesn't own anything. Margaret gasped. Abigail, is this true? Abigail's voice was barely audible. It's complicated. No, I said firmly. It's simple. I bought my daughter a house because I thought she needed one. I kept it in my name because I thought we were family. But apparently, we're not. Dad, you can't be serious about selling it. Why not? You just told me you wish someone else had given you that kidney. Someone who matters. Well, Abigail, someone who matters is taking back his house. The crowd around us had grown. Other party guests were drifting over, sensing drama. Trevor looked stunned. Abigail, you told us your father was just a maintenance worker with health problems. He is, Abigail said defensively. Who bought you a $2.5 million house, Margaret said quietly. And gave you a kidney, added Trevor's father. And whose mortgage payments have been funding your lifestyle for 6 years, I continued. Abigail turned to me, desperation creeping into her voice. Dad, we can work this out. You're upset, I understand, but I'm not upset, Abigail. I'm enlightened. My phone rang. Tom Bradley. Paul, I just got off the phone with the Hendersons. They're still interested. Cash offer, 2.75, 30-day close. You want me to draw up papers? I looked directly at Abigail. Make it 2 weeks. Dad, no! Abigail's voice cracked. 2 weeks? Tom's voice was surprised. Paul, that's aggressive. Abigail just informed me that she wishes she'd gotten her kidney from someone who matters. Someone who matters should be able to afford his own housing, don't you think? Jesus, Paul. She really said that? In front of 12 witnesses. 2 weeks it is. I'll call them now. I hung up and looked at Abigail, who was now crying openly. Ladies and gentlemen, I said to the gathered crowd, I apologize for disrupting your evening, but I wanted you to know that this beautiful house will be changing hands very soon. If you're interested in the neighborhood, now might be a good time to look around. Margaret stepped forward. Mr. Thompson, surely there's some way to resolve this family issue privately. I tried that approach, Margaret, for years, but Abigail made it clear tonight that she doesn't consider us family. Abigail, Trevor said quietly, is this really happening? Abigail wiped her eyes, smearing her perfect makeup. Trevor, I can explain. Explain what? That you've been lying to me about everything? Your house, your success, your relationship with your father? I never lied. You told me your father was some deadbeat who couldn't take care of himself. He can't. Look at him. I smiled. Abigail, in 2 weeks, I'll have nearly $3 million in liquid assets. How much will you have? The question hung in the air. That's what I thought. Margaret looked at Abigail with something approaching pity. Dear, how could you be so cruel to someone who gave you so much? You don't understand, Abigail said desperately. He holds it over my head constantly. Every conversation, every decision, it's always about what he gave up for me. Tonight was the first time I've mentioned the kidney in months, I said calmly. But it's always there. The guilt, the expectation, but it's always there. The guilt, the expectation that I should be grateful forever. Abigail, Margaret said softly, Gratitude isn't a burden, it's a choice. Trevor was backing away from Abigail now, his face a mixture of disgust and disappointment. You know what, Abigail? I think your father is right. Someone who could say what you just said, I don't think I know you at all. Trevor, please. My father always taught me that character is how you treat the people who gave you everything when you think nobody's watching. Well, everybody's watching now. He walked away. His parents followed without a word. Abigail turned back to me, desperation replacing anger. Dad, please. You're destroying my life. No, Abigail. I'm stopping the destruction of mine. The party was dissolving around us. Guests were making polite excuses and heading for the door. The servers were looking uncertain about whether to keep serving drinks. Abigail grabbed my arm. Dad, I'm sorry. I didn't mean what I said. I was embarrassed, and I said stupid things. You were embarrassed by me. Yes, I was. But that doesn't mean what, Abigail? That you don't respect me? That you don't value what I've done for you? That you see me as an inconvenience rather than your father? She was quiet. Abigail, do you know what the monthly payment on this house is? I know, no. $3,847, plus taxes, insurance, utilities. Call it $5,000 a month. She stared at me. For 6 years, Abigail. $360,000, plus the $2.5 million purchase price, plus the $40,000 in medical bills I paid out of pocket for your transplant. Dad, that's nearly $3 million I've spent on you and your surgery. And tonight, you told a room full of people that you wish you'd gotten your kidney from someone who matters. Abigail was sobbing now. Her perfect party makeup ruined. Someone who matters just decided you can find your own housing. I walked toward the door, then paused. The new owners take possession January 15th. That gives you 30 days to figure out where you're going to live on $85,000 a year. Dad, where am I supposed to go? I looked back at her one last time. Abigail, that's the first decision you'll make as an independent adult who actually has to pay for her own choices. I can't afford anything in this area. Then don't live in this area. But my job, my life, your job pays $85,000 a year. Your life costs $300,000. The math never worked, Abigail. You just never had to face it before. I walked out of my house for the last time, leaving Abigail standing in the wreckage of her perfect party, finally understanding the true cost of everything she'd taken for granted. The next morning, Tom Bradley called me at 7 a.m. Paul, the Hendersons accepted. 2.75, cash, 14-day close. We can sign papers today if you're ready. I was sitting in my small kitchen, drinking coffee and watching the sunrise through my single window. For the first time in months, I felt clear-headed. I'm ready, Tom. Paul, I have to ask one more time. Are you absolutely sure about this? Once we sign these papers and they put down earnest money, there's no going back. There was no going back the moment Abigail said she wished she'd gotten her kidney from someone who matters. Damn, Paul, I still can't believe she said that. She meant it, Tom. That's what you need to understand. Abigail didn't have a moment of poor judgment. She revealed who she really is. What time works for you to sign? How about 10 a.m., your office? See you then. At 9:30, my phone started ringing. Abigail. I let it go to voicemail. She called back immediately, and again. By the time I walked into Tom's office, she'd called 7 times. Popular this morning? Tom asked, noticing my buzzing phone. Abigail's finally realizing this is real. We spent 45 minutes reviewing contracts. Sale price, $2,750,000. Earnest money, $275,000, non-refundable after 3 days. Close date, December 29th, 2 weeks exactly. The buyers want to do a walkthrough tomorrow, Tom said. Is the house going to be accessible? Abigail still has keys, but she'll cooperate. My phone rang again. Abigail. This time I answered. Dad, please, we need to talk. We talked last night, Abigail. You were very clear about your feelings. I was upset. I said things I didn't mean. Which things didn't you mean? That you were embarrassed by me? That you wished someone else had given you a kidney? That I don't matter? She was crying. All of it. I was just... the pressure of the party trying to impress Trevor's family. Abigail, there will always be pressure. There will always be someone to impress. The question is whether you throw your family under the bus to do it. Dad, you can't sell the house. This is my home. It was never your home, Abigail. It was my gift to you, and you made it clear that gifts from me are unwelcome. That's not what I said. You said you wish the kidney came from someone who matters. I was angry. No, Abigail. You were honest, maybe for the first time in years. I could hear her breathing, trying to collect herself. Dad, if you sell the house, I'll have nowhere to go. You'll figure it out. You're a smart, successful woman with a college degree and a good job. I can't afford rent in this area on my salary. Then don't live in this area. But my social life, my relationship with Trevor, Abigail, listen to yourself. You're more worried about your social status than your relationship with your father. That's not true. Last night, when you had to choose between defending me and protecting your image, what did you choose? She was quiet. Abigail, I'm going to tell you something, and I want you to really hear it. I don't regret giving you my kidney. I don't regret buying you that house. I don't even regret the 6 years of mortgage payments. Then why are you doing this? Because those weren't investments in your lifestyle, Abigail. They were investments in our relationship. And you've made it clear that our relationship has no value to you. That's not true, Dad. I love you. Abigail, love isn't a feeling. Love is a choice you make every day. And every day for the past 2 years, you've chosen your social status over your family. I can change. Can you? When Trevor's parents invite you to their next event, will you bring me? When your coworkers ask about your father, will you tell them I'm a maintenance worker who gave you a kidney? When someone compliments your house, will you tell them your dad bought it for you? She didn't answer. That's what I thought. Dad, please, give me another chance. Abigail, I gave you a chance every day for 2 years. You used every one of those chances to distance yourself from me. If you sell this house, you'll ruin my life. No, Abigail. I'll stop subsidizing the life that was ruining both of us. I looked at Tom, who was trying to pretend he wasn't listening to every word. The papers are signed, Abigail. The buyers take possession December 29th. You have 4 weeks to make new arrangements. Dad, Abigail, I love you, but I won't be taken for granted anymore, and I won't pretend that disrespect is love. I hung up and turned off my phone. Tom looked at me with something approaching admiration. Paul, that took balls. Tom, that took self-respect. I should have done it years ago. The next 3 weeks were a masterclass in cause and effect. Within 24 hours of the party, word had spread through Abigail's entire social circle. Los Angeles high society is surprisingly small, and the story of Abigail's public humiliation was too juicy not to share. Margaret Ashford, it turns out, was not just Trevor's mother. She was also on the board of Sterling Luxury Brands, Abigail's employer. More importantly, she was someone who valued family loyalty above almost everything else. Abigail called me on December 18th, 3 days after the party. Her voice was hollow. Dad, I got called into HR today. I was packing boxes in my apartment, getting ready to move somewhere nicer with the proceeds from the house sale. What happened? Margaret told her friend Patricia about what happened at the party. Patricia sits on our executive committee. And they're questioning my character. They want to know how someone could treat their father the way I treated you. I didn't respond. Dad, they're talking about putting me on administrative leave pending a culture fit evaluation. Sterling Luxury Brands built their reputation on family values and authentic relationships. Having an employee who publicly humiliated the father who'd given her a kidney didn't align with their brand message. What did you tell them? I tried to explain that it was a misunderstanding, that you were being dramatic. I was being dramatic. Yes! You made this huge scene in front of all those people. Abigail, I made one phone call to my real estate agent and told the truth about who owned the house. Everything else was you. She was quiet. What else is happening, Abigail? Trevor broke up with me. I'd expected that. Trevor came from the kind of family that took care of their own. Watching Abigail discard the man who'd sacrificed everything for her was probably more disturbing to him than anything else she could have done. I'm sorry to hear that. Are you? Because it feels like you wanted this to happen. Abigail, I wanted you to understand that actions have consequences. This is what consequences look like. My entire life is falling apart. Your fake life is falling apart. Maybe now you can build a real one. By December 22nd, the story had reached the local news. A reporter had somehow gotten wind of the Christmas party organ donor incident and wanted to interview both of us. Abigail called, panicked. Dad, there are reporters calling me. They want to do a story about us. What kind of story? About family values and gratitude and... Dad, this is going to ruin me professionally. Only if you let it. What do you mean? Abigail, you have a choice. You can keep playing the victim, or you can take responsibility and try to make things right. How do I make this right? You've already sold the house. The house was never the point, Abigail. The house was just a symptom. A symptom of what? Of you forgetting that the people who love you aren't disposable. On December 24th, Christmas Eve, Abigail showed up at my apartment. I was surprised she knew where I lived. She hadn't visited in over a year. She looked terrible. Her hair was unwashed, her clothes wrinkled. The polished, sophisticated woman from the party was gone. Dad, can I come in? I stepped aside and let her into my small living room. I lost my job. I'd been expecting this too. I'm sorry, Abigail. They said I violated their core values policy, bringing disrepute to the company brand through personal conduct unbecoming. What are you going to do? I don't know. She sat heavily on my old couch. My rent is $4,000 a month. I had enough savings for maybe 2 months, but without references from Sterling. She started crying. Dad, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry for everything I said, everything I did. You were right. I was ungrateful and selfish, and I took everything you did for granted. I sat down across from her. Abigail, are you sorry because you finally understand what you did wrong? Or are you sorry because you're facing consequences? She looked up at me, tears streaming down her face. Does it matter? It's the only thing that matters. She was quiet for a long time. I think both. I think I've been sorry for a while, but I was too proud to admit it. And now that everything's falling apart, I can't pretend anymore. Pretend what? That I did any of this myself. That I earned this life. That I deserve to be embarrassed by the person who made it all possible. I felt something shift in my chest. Not forgiveness, exactly, but recognition. This was the first honest thing Abigail had said to me in years. Abigail, do you remember what you said about wishing you'd gotten your kidney from someone who matters? She closed her eyes. I remember. Do you still feel that way? Dad, I felt that way for about 30 seconds. I was angry and embarrassed, and I wanted to hurt you the way I felt like you were hurting me. How was I hurting you? By making me face the truth. By refusing to let me keep pretending I was this self-made success story. We sat in silence for a while. Abigail, the house closes in 5 days. That's not changing. I know. But that doesn't mean we can't rebuild our relationship. She looked up hopefully. Really? Abigail, I didn't sell that house to punish you. I sold it to save both of us. You were turning into someone I didn't recognize, and I was turning into someone who enabled that transformation. What happens now? Now you learn to live within your means. You find a job that values your actual skills rather than your fake lifestyle. You remember what it feels like to earn something instead of inheriting it. And us? We'll see. Trust is earned back slowly, Abigail, one honest conversation at a time. She nodded, still crying, but somehow looking more like the daughter I remembered. Dad? Yeah? Thank you. For the kidney. For the house. For everything. I should have said that years ago. It was a start. 6 months later, I was living in a modest 2-bedroom condo in Manhattan Beach, walking distance from the ocean. The proceeds from the house sale had bought me the place outright, plus enough left over for a comfortable retirement. My kidney function had stabilized at 25%. Not great, but manageable with proper care and regular rest. For the first time in years, I wasn't constantly exhausted. Abigail was living in a 1-bedroom apartment in Culver City, paying $1,800 a month, exactly what someone making her salary should be paying for housing. She'd found work at a smaller marketing firm, making less money, but working for people who cared more about results than connections. We had dinner together every other Sunday. Nothing fancy, usually takeout. Chinese or pizza, eaten at my small dining table overlooking the beach. Today was one of those Sundays. Abigail arrived at 5:30 carrying a bag of Thai food and looking healthier than she had in years. How was your week? I asked as we unpacked pad Thai and green curry. Good, actually. We landed that account I was telling you about, the sustainable clothing line. They liked my ideas about authentic storytelling. Authentic storytelling? Imagine that, she smiled. I know, I know. Ironic. Abigail had learned to laugh at herself over the past few months. It was one of many changes I'd noticed. Dad, I need to tell you something. What's that? I've been thinking about Trevor a lot lately. I waited. Not missing him, exactly. But thinking about why that relationship fell apart so fast. And I think he never actually knew me. The real me. He only knew the version I created, the successful, independent woman who'd earned her beautiful life through hard work and good choices. And when he found out that wasn't true, he felt betrayed, not just by the lies, but by the fact that I was willing to throw away my relationship with you to maintain those lies. Abigail had been doing a lot of this kind of reflection. It was another change I'd noticed. What did that teach you? That you can't build real relationships on fake foundations. That authenticity isn't just a marketing buzzword. It's actually the only way to connect with people who matter. We ate in comfortable silence for a while, watching the sunset paint the ocean orange and pink. Dad, can I ask you something? Of course. Do you ever regret it? Selling the house? I considered the question. Abigail, I regret that it was necessary. I regret that you and I had to go through that pain to get to where we are now. But do I regret the decision itself? No. Even though it basically destroyed my life, it destroyed a life that was destroying you. There's a difference. She nodded thoughtfully. Abigail, can I tell you what I've learned from all this? Please. Love without boundaries isn't love. It's enabling. For years, I thought I was showing love by giving you everything you wanted. But what I was actually doing was preventing you from becoming the person you were capable of being. How do you mean? You're stronger now, Abigail. More honest, more resilient. 6 months ago, you would have crumbled under the pressure of finding a new job, a new apartment, a new identity. But you didn't crumble. You adapted. It was terrifying. Most growth is. Abigail was quiet for a moment, twirling pad thai around her fork. Dad, I want you to know that I think about the kidney thing differently now. How so? Before, it felt like this huge debt I could never repay. Like I owed you my entire life because you gave me part of yours. And now? Now I realize that the kidney was just one gift among many. You gave me life, yes, but you also gave me values and work ethic and the ability to bounce back from failure. Those gifts are just as important. Maybe more important. Definitely more important. The kidney saved my life, but the other things, they made my life worth saving. I felt tears prick at the corners of my eyes. Abigail, that might be the nicest thing anyone's ever said to me. It's just the truth, Dad. It took me losing everything to see it, but it's the truth. We finished dinner as the sky darkened, talking about her work, my retirement plans, the book I was thinking about writing. As she got ready to leave, Abigail hugged me tightly. Thank you, Dad, for everything, but especially for loving me enough to let me fall. Thank you for climbing back up. After she left, I sat on my small balcony listening to the ocean and thinking about second chances. Sometimes the greatest gift you can give someone is the opportunity to discover who they really are when everything else is stripped away. Abigail had discovered she was stronger than either of us had imagined. Have you ever had to set boundaries with ungrateful family? Let me know in the comments.